It's been a few years since I sat in the audience at a circus track. In fact, I never had a great charm for its wonders. But something has changed. It was enough for a small child to push me there whenever the caravans were installed a few meters from our house. Every day we did the inspection of the assembly, and when the big tent went up, that girl's eyes shone with such intensity that I only had to pull out of my wallet. The collapse of the circus illusion. I remember perfectly the last time I went to the circus. It was 10 years ago when a circus arrived in town, and had almost all of the Disney imagery on the poster. As soon as I saw them, I already knew that I would have to take my daughter to that circus. Seated in anticipation, we feel the fall of the circus illusion. Like me, she was inundated with the sadness that the artists brought to their chest, eyes and manner, which they tried to hide at all costs. After 15 minutes the girl asked delicately to go home. She was sad and didn't want popcorn. I never went back to the circus. My daughter, yes. Remembering emotions when touching old things. I remembered this story when recently I found an extensive report, published in the magazine Ilustração Portuguesa of February 8, 1908, about the clown Little Walter, Alexandre Ulrich, who worked in the Lisbon Colosseum. I looked at it well in the photos, and yes, there it was. The disillusioned look and the smile, that was nothing more than a caricature that revealed a sad joy under the white paste, dotted with reddish spots, that covered his face, and under the thick and arched eyebrows streaked above his eyes. After all, there may be something dramatic about the circus. Perhaps it is the caricature of life, with its pains, frustrations and joys. Little Walter and the statement of the clown Auguste. Born in Liège, Belgium, in 1879, Walter started his career very young, in an acrobatic troupe called Les Bourbonnel. He debuted at Circus Rennes, a German circus that was on stage between 1842 and 1897, as an acrobat and écuyer, without anyone noticing it. They paid him badly, 3 shillings a day, and his situation was ungrateful because he was always overwhelmed with ideas and his role in the troupe was irrelevant, not allowing him to vent all his creativity. If only they paid him the amount he thought he deserved, some profit would come. He proposed himself to be a clown, his big dream. For that reason, he invested 4 shillings in the purchase of a black frock coat, a huge vest, extremely wide pants and a pair of military boots, the ones he used throughout his artistic life, and ended up creating a new type of clown Auguste. He had perfected his caricatures with the Englishman Dan Leno, being evident throughout his career, the influence of the English comedians. If not more because he worked on Circus Rennes with the acrobat and écuyer Tom Belling, in the troupe since 1869, and who would become the first Auguste clown and the one who will have passed on the genre matrix to Walter. The man behind Little Walter was a person in constant creative and improvisational hyperactivity. He sought inspiration in the characters of the day-to-day, revealing himself in the female roles that were one of his best and most appreciated transformations. With Walter, the Auguste, dressed in evening dress began to lose its relevance. It was monotonous, and the audience wanted to be surprised by something new. Walter's constant experiments offered this variety with no limits. He appeared in checked suits, flared breeches and trousers with intertwined legs, displaying a decadent dandy style, of ridiculous and booming elegance. In a way, Walter caricatured the clown Auguste on circus tracks, and for many authors, like Auguste Remy, Little Walter it was the first Auguste, whose originality surpassed the clown. According to Walter's account, all this happened during the 10 years, 1896 and 1906, of partnership between Little Walter and Antoinette, with a stint in James Anthony Bailey's The Barnum and Bailey Circus' Greatest Show on Earth, which toured Europe between 1900 and 1902. During this period, both developed a set of humorous pieces that became a reference for the following generations, for example, Kubelik II and Rubinstein, Hamlet, Le Clariniste or Le Soldat. Maybe because of tiredness, or because of some incompatibilities with Antoinette's obsessively controlling methodology, little Walter decides to abandon the duo and establish his show. Even so, the influence of little Walter remained with Antoinette's partners. When Antoinette started working with Grock, in 1906, he found the ideal partner because unlike Walter, he shared the same care for planning, precision and detail in essays and presentations. Walter was extremely versatile and possessed a formidable ability to improvise, adapting to the audience, often coming into conflict with Antoinette's concepts. Walter once said,
"When I present myself for the first time before an audience that I don't know, I start by groping, carefully."
Neither Antoinette nor Grock was still famous. However, Antoinette took the dominant role. Grock, less experienced, did his learning to replace little Walter and, in photographic records, it was easy to confuse the two. The copy was almost perfect. In fact, Grock may have been the little Walter that Antoinette always wanted, methodical, conservative and obedient. Little Walter in Portugal. A beginning and an end. Although he performed in Portugal for the first time in 1897, at the Dom Afonso Theatre, Porto, in 1908 Little Walter it was already one of the biggest attractions in the Lisbon Coliseum with the pantomime Walter Aviator. In the interview with the magazine Ilustração Portuguesa describes himself as a showman on the rise, full of dreams and goals. Married to Emily Leekerson, a Frenchwoman born in Coimbra, with whom she had 2 children, he ended up establishing deep ties with the city of Lisbon.
"I love Lisbon because I know that I have a friend in each spectator and gives me the impression that I work in my land. I already consider Portugal as the land where I was born because, for many family ties, I am Portuguese. My wife was born in Coimbra, my son was born in Lisbon."
From one moment to the next the world turned inside out and the winds of war blew overwhelming, taking the lives of millions of young people, and marking the beginning of the career decline of many artists, including that of Little Walter. On November 7, 1914, Little Walter was in Bordeaux where he wrote a letter to his friend Francisco Cirejo, from Lisbon. He had not heard from his son Nene for a long time, who, months before the war started, had left for Belgium to be taken care of by an uncle. He said in that letter that he would leave for Paris and go to war wanting to avenge everything that the Germans had stolen from him.
"Tell everyone that Walter is not going to do any more antics. It is no longer the military intermediary that I will do. Now, I'm going to be a real military man because the Germans stole everything from me, my homeland, my parents and my son. I will avenge the blood of my brothers. I will kill or die. Remember me a few times, I was always your friend." Bordeaux, the 7th of November. Little Walter.
After World War I, he spent several seasons at Cirque Hiver in Paris, directed by Gaston Deprez, with Eels, E.P. Loyal and his son Joe Walter. He ended up returning to Portugal. He rented a house on Rua de Glória, in Lisbon, dedicating himself to touring of his Circo Music Hall through the cities and towns of Portugal. We can read in the magazine Illustration, of June 16, 1937, that Walter received the commendation of the benevolence granted by the Portuguese government for his performances in children's homes and hospitals, to which he added the gold medal of the city of Porto. In April 1937 he left for a new round and fell ill in a Bruntish. In Castelo Branco his health deteriorated and his son-in-law Gio, married to his eldest daughter, Helena Walter, still tried to arrange for him to be admitted to a hospital in Lisbon. There was nothing left to do. The smile of Little Walter went out and the Circus Music Hall cloth fell. He died in Castelo Branco in June 1937, poor, but surrounded by the whole family who with him, lived to entertain and make others laugh. You can find this story and others in mrolson.com.